Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelk boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustle with the boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan. And thank you, America. Thank you. Have a good night.
Dana White and Donald Trump. Their partnership is more than a friendship. It's a blueprint for mutual success. From the days when the UFC struggled to survive to its transformation into a billion-dollar empire, Trump's influence has been a silent but powerful force behind Dana White's rise. And now, with Trump returning to the White House in 2025, the stakes and the potential profits have never been higher. But how will White and the UFC thrive under Trump's presidency? From tax cuts and deregulation to global expansion and media dominance, let's uncover how politics, sports, and business collide to create the perfect storm of opportunity for one of the most influential figures in combat sports. Dana White and Donald Trump's relationship is the stuff of legends. In the early 2000s, when the UFC was on the brink of collapse, Trump stepped in with a lifeline, offering the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City as a venue for UFC events. At a time when no one wanted to touch mixed martial arts, Trump saw its potential and gave it a chance. White has never forgotten that support. Over the years, he's repaid the favor, becoming one of Trump's most vocal supporters. From speaking at Republican national conventions to publicly endorsing Trump's campaigns, White has made it clear that their bond is unbreakable. When Trump first took office in 2016, the UFC entered a golden era. Tax cuts and deregulation created a business-friendly environment that allowed the UFC to flourish. White seized the moment, securing massive deals like the $1.5 billion partnership with ESPN, expanding the UFC's global footprint, and delivering record-breaking pay-per-view events. Now, with Trump set to return to the White House in 2025, the UFC stands on the brink of yet another transformative era. Could the UFC's biggest years still be ahead, thanks to Trump's policies? Drop a comment if you think Dana White is about to hit the jackpot. Under Trump's administration, tax cuts and deregulation were a windfall for businesses across industries. For the UFC, this meant lower operating costs, more flexibility in negotiating deals, and greater profitability. With Trump back in office, White is poised to capitalize once again. Imagine the UFC's revenue streams: ticket sales, merchandise, pay-per-view buys, all growing under a tax-friendly regime. Deregulation also opens doors for the UFC to expand into new territories. Under Trump's influence, bureaucratic hurdles could be minimized, allowing the UFC to enter emerging markets like Africa and South America more seamlessly. These regions represent untapped potential, with millions of fans eager for high-profile events. For White, deregulation isn't just about cutting costs. It's about paving the way for the UFC to dominate globally. Do you think Trump's business policies will supercharge the UFC's growth? Drop a comment if you believe the UFC is heading for a global takeover. Trump's presidency brings with it a network of global allies, particularly in the Middle East and Asia, regions where combat sports are gaining massive popularity. The UFC has already made inroads in Abu Dhabi, hosting several high-profile events there. With Trump's connections, White could expand these partnerships, potentially locking in lucrative long-term deals. Imagine the UFC hosting events in Saudi Arabia, backed by the government's Vision 2030 initiative. With Trump's relationships in the region, the UFC could gain unprecedented access to funding, venues, and promotional opportunities. These mega events wouldn't just bring in millions, they'd elevate the UFC's brand on a global scale. And with Trump's support, the UFC could become the gold standard for international sports entertainment. Are you ready to see UFC events in iconic global locations? Comment with A if you think Dana White's global ambitions will explode under Trump. The UFC's $1.5 billion deal with ESPN was just the beginning. With Trump in office, the media landscape could shift in ways that benefit the UFC even further. Trump's administration could ease regulations on streaming platforms, opening the door for new partnerships with tech giants like Amazon, Netflix, or even emerging platforms with Trump's backing. Imagine a world where the UFC expands beyond fights, creating original content like fighter documentaries, behind-the-scenes footage, and reality shows that engage fans 24/7. Trump's media-savvy nature aligns perfectly with White's promotional genius, creating opportunities for the UFC to dominate not just sports broadcasting, but entertainment as a whole. Could the UFC become the king of sports streaming? Drop a comment if you're ready for the next evolution of UFC media. Dana White and Donald Trump share a unique ability to turn controversy into opportunity. Both thrive on headlines, rivalries, and the drama that keeps audiences coming back for more. The UFC's rise has been fueled by larger-than-life characters, dramatic rivalries, and shocking moments, all of which align perfectly with Trump's approach to politics and business. With Trump in office, expect the UFC to lean even more into its spectacle-driven strategy. Imagine high-profile events featuring crossovers between fighters, influencers, and even political figures. The UFC could blur the lines between sports and entertainment, creating events that dominate social media and generate massive revenue. Is controversy the secret to the UFC's success? Drop a comment if you think Dana White and Trump's branding strategies are unstoppable. For Dana White, Trump's presidency isn't just about short-term gains, it's about solidifying the UFC's place in history. With Trump's backing, the UFC has the opportunity to break new records, reach new audiences, and redefine what combat sports can be. From billion-dollar sponsorship deals to groundbreaking partnerships, the possibilities are endless. But this legacy comes with challenges. Critics argue that blending politics and sports could alienate fans or dilute the UFC's credibility. Yet, if history has shown us anything, it's that White thrives under pressure. With Trump by his side, White could turn these challenges into opportunities, ensuring the UFC's legacy as a cultural and financial powerhouse. So how will Dana White profit? From Trump's presidency in 2025? From tax cuts and deregulation to global expansion and media dominance, the opportunities are staggering. White and the UFC are perfectly positioned to thrive under a pro-business administration, transforming the sport into a billion-dollar global empire. But as with all things Trump and White, controversy will follow. And for them, that's just part of the game. What do you think? Will Trump's presidency take the UFC to new heights? Drop a comment if you believe Dana White's best years are still ahead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the biggest stories in sports and the business behind them. The future of combat sports just got a whole lot more exciting.